What's up, everybody? What's up, MGTOW? So this is going to be my part 4 response to Crimson Crusaders. I start on some of the points in this video. I just want to clear up some other points that I've kind of picked up on through his videos that he keeps making comments on, basically saying that I'm being too black and white about certain issues and not looking at individual tiny circumstances and exceptions to the rule. But what I said from the beginning is that I'm making wide sweeping generalizations. I said that. I never said that I'm going to analyze every single individual person in the entire world and look at their motivations and drives and what they like and what they don't like. These are generalized, sweeping analysis. Now, if you look at meta-analysis, or looking at the big picture of things, you start to see patterns. Like, for instance, if you're looking at an ocean, right, there's not really any way for you to predict what one drop of water is going to do. It could go up, it could go down, it could be hot, it could be cold, it could turn to ice, it could turn to steam. But when you look at the ocean, there's waves, and you can basically predict to a certain time period when the tide's going to come in and when the tide's going to go out. But you still can't predict exactly what one drop of water is going to do. And that's what meta-analysis is. Nobody's saying every single woman is going to do the exact same thing. But when you look over a large group of women, and then 70 or 80% of the women are doing the exact same thing, you can use that data to then make decisions and things like that about how you're going to interact with that group of people. Now, another thing that Crimson Crusader has mentioned, which isn't part of this video, is he conflates monkey branching with hypergamy. Now, in a previous video in this series, I said that hypergamy is the female choosing or being selected for through competition to find the highest quality mate possible. Now, that's what hypergamy is. It's men having a competition and then women having sex with the winner of that competition. Monkey branching is a derivative of hypergamy in which a woman is already in a relationship with a man and then goes into another relationship with a man, typically of higher status, but it could be for other reasons, that she could have other motives and this and that. I mean, trying to use all these particulars is just a way for you to try to poke holes in the argument, but the argument in general is sound. It's like, if I say most men don't wear makeup to work, and then you go, what about clowns? Clowns wear makeup to work, and a lot of clowns are men. It's like, you're just being, I don't even know what the word is for it, but you're not really being very honest intellectually. And the fact is that I've pretty much shown statistics for every point that I've brought up. I just didn't have time to look up all the statistics and do all that stuff in the last video that I made because I was just responding to a comment. And I mean, you can look up this stuff online too. It's not very difficult. I'm not like a genius or anything like that. So, another point that's not in the video that I should probably clarify is that I'm not saying that females shouldn't have education, but the whole idea of the liberal arts and people having these type of educational degrees, I mean, females can still be educated. They can still read and learn things and learn about different things. They don't have to have a college degree to know things. Nobody has to have a college degree to know things. And that's what I was saying, unless it's like engineering or some type of hard science, there's really no point in going to college. Because if you just want to learn history or art or things like that, you can learn those things on your own. Now, this concept is really one of the harder concepts to communicate to people, especially people that think that women should be strong, independent women and get welfare and all that stuff like you seem to think. The idea of having women in the workforce crosses gender roles because men can't have children. Women shouldn't be able to work. That's just nature. And you can say I'm a misogynist, I'm a sexist, but nature itself is sexist. As I've shown with the clips of all the animals and stuff like that, all animal species have defined gender roles. They have defined gender roles which are conducive to reproduction. So when you cross the gender roles by putting women into the workforce and competing against men, it's going to damage the sexual reproductive process of humans. So since humans are more of an abstract kind of creature, we don't have obvious organs that display the difference between men and women except for a breast and a penis. But when you're looking at, kind of abstract work like law work or being an artist or something like that, it's not obvious that women shouldn't be in the workforce. So let's take the example of rams. So just imagine for a second that you got this herd of rams and you see how rams reproduce. The males butt each other in the head to fight over access to the females. So what do you think would happen if some government agents came out into the field and took a bunch of the female rams and injected them with testosterone or whatever the male ram hormone is, and then surgically attached ram horns onto the female rams? So now the female rams are all aggressive and they're butting heads with the males and fighting the males to the death. Do you think that that's going to increase the ram birth rate or decrease the ram birth rate with female rams having horns on their heads and trying to butt heads with the guys that try to have sex with them? It's just pretty obvious in that type of animal species. But in humans, you want women to be strong and independent and they don't need no man and they can all go into the workforce. And then by the time they're 35, 40, they can't have any kids and society's birth rate drops. All right, so again, you're going here with particulars where you're saying that women are looking for these secondary reproductive characteristics like compatibility and all this other stuff from psychology today. Sure, people want to have compatibility in a relationship, but this theory does not explain why women do not date homeless guys. And this theory does not explain why 70% of marriages are hypergamous, where the man makes more money than the woman. It just doesn't explain those things. Just saying that, oh, well, the woman's looking for somebody who gets her and who's communicative. That's feminist BS. Feminists tell men that women want a guy who cares about her, a nice guy that wants to talk about his feelings. And no, that's not what women are looking for on average. And the marriage rate shows that women are looking for men with resources. Ask pickup artists. Women are looking for men with resources. Ask homeless guys that can't get a date. Women are looking for men with resources. And if you look in the animal kingdom, women reproduce, or females reproduce, with the highest status males in the tribe. So again, with my hypothesis of the rams, giving female rams horns, it's like you have to look at nature. And the fact is that men are still dependent on women to have children. So it should follow that women should be dependent on men for resources. As you can see, that's how it works in nature, and society basically still works like that. Women just don't have to depend on individual men anymore because now they depend on the government. And as you can see with the statistics from people receiving benefits, women receive more benefits from the government than men do. And we can see that the further we've gotten into this experiment of allowing women into the workforce, the birth rate has declined rapidly. And that's due at least in part to the fact that women no longer have to make deals with individual men to exchange resources for sex, and they can just either get a job or go on welfare. And then because they don't have to exchange sex, and also because of contraceptive availability, the birth rate has gone down a lot in almost just a century. So I guess another question for you is that if you support women being independent and all this other stuff and being in the workforce and they don't need no man, which sounds a lot like feminism, do you also promote the use of surrogacies for single men and the manufacturing of artificial wombs and any other type of technology that would allow men to no longer need to access women for reproductive purposes? Now, again, when you're talking about college and sexual market value, your tactic of just throwing out a million little type of like inconsistencies, it's just a tactic. That's all it is, because you're not addressing the real points that I'm making. And I'm making generalized points, because for you to try to claim that a man's income level has nothing to do with his sexual market value, that's a ridiculous claim. I don't have to prove that. That's obvious. It's obvious that women like men with money. I mean, just watch some YouTube videos or just type into your favorite browser, do women like men with money? And look at the results, and you'll find out a big secret that's been kept from men for thousands of years. Ooh. So, on the female side, yes, women use going to college to increase their access to men with higher incomes, because people that go to college typically have higher incomes. Women go to college too to not only increase their own income, but to have access to men that have a higher income. And you're asking for evidence again. There's just very obvious evidence. College graduates are more likely to be married than people that do not go to college. And also, the higher your income, the more likely you are to be married. And since we live in a gynocentric system where no one can force women to do anything, women choose to marry who they want. And since they're not marrying homeless guys, it's pretty evident that women prefer to marry higher income guys with a higher level of education than not. Okay, so on your welfare thing in the black community, I really don't have time to explain the entire cyclical nature of why giving women welfare on the condition of excluding the father from the family creates generations of fatherless men who then have a harder time becoming productive members of society and fathers themselves. But it's mainly because they don't have a role model to follow after, and they don't have anyone to give them advice, and they don't have anybody to help them to become productive members of society and fathers. But to say that it's not women's fault, women basically, right after slavery and after segregation, the government came in and offered women a deal. They said, you could either stay with these guys, these low-income guys that are barely making it because, there was still a lot of problems in the United States when it came to black people. And the woman said, oh, well, we'll take the welfare and we'll just kick the guys out. Women made that choice because women could have said, no, we like our men here and we'll work with them and stand behind them, and, whatever they do, we'll just deal with that. But instead, they took the money from the government, kicked the guy out, and then they raised the kids without the father, and then the cycle began from there. And see, when you're saying that you support welfare, I support private charities. Like, if you personally want to go out and give a single mother money, that's fine. But to force every man in society to pay into some type of pot that's going to decrease their chances of getting sexual access because the government is giving women money, and then therefore they don't need to find a man with resources and exchange those resources for sex, you can see how that's a problem for individual men. So, like I'm saying, if you want to be charitable and help people out, that's fine. Nobody's stopping you from doing that personally. But to expect people in society who it's going against their own self-interest to do that, that doesn't make any sense. And then again, the whole cycle of welfare, women can't have a husband and be on welfare. So they have to choose whether they want to be with a man and exchange sex for resources and have somebody that has authority over them and can tell them, well, you can't go out to the club tonight and you can't do this and you can't do that because you got to stay at home and raise the kids. Or they could take welfare from the government, still go to the club, be neglectful of their kids, and still get paid for it. A lot of people are going to choose the latter. I don't care if you're a man or a woman, but the point is that it's only being offered to women. And that's one of the reasons why we need to cut welfare. And I'm talking about corporate welfare too, any type of government redistribution of taxes to other people. People should pay directly for what they want to pay for. And then on top of that, the cycle of single motherhood would drastically be reduced, because if it was a known fact in society that if you have a kid, you're on your own, there's no help. A lot of women, I think, at least, this is just my opinion, would be more cautious about who they have sex with. And they wouldn't just have sex with anybody who's in earshot of them, because they would know that if this guy has a kid with them and then he just leaves, that they're going to be on their own and there is no welfare. So to say that, oh, I just want to help the women and the independent women, it sounds good, but it's better for people to know that they're not going to get help, and then they're going to change their patterns of behavior because of that. As opposed to they see their mom got welfare and then their grandma got welfare, so they pretty much know that they're going to get welfare, and then they don't have to care who they sleep with beforehand. So yeah, like I said, I'm pretty interested to see what this last video is going to be like, but it seems to me that in all, it's just a complete miscommunication, because I'm just talking about statistics and nature and biology, and you're talking about people's individual motives as opposed to looking at everything in a generalized way and not looking at a particular person's motive. Because yes, sure, there's one person does this and one person does that, and one person does this and one person does that, and this guy does this and that girl does that. But when you look in general at trends, you can see that 70% of women are married to guys that make more money than them. So then when you try to make a claim that money has nothing to do with relationships, it's just some weird correlation, just magically all the women want to marry guys that make more money than them. It's just random. No, it's no longer random when it's over 70%, over 80%. When it's 70% of women are initiating divorces, that's not a random occurrence. It's that's the rule. The exception is women not initiating divorce. So to me, I think that instead of you telling me that I'm looking at things in too black and white, you need to stop particularizing everything down to the point where it's well, we don't know if this guy's left foot is going to step forward or his right foot's going to step. It doesn't matter when you're looking at society and trends in society and making generalizations, which is specifically what I said I'm doing. I said I'm making sweeping generalizations about groups of people by looking at statistics. So to try to say, oh, well, the woman wants to get married because of this, and she's looking for this and she's looking for that. Yeah, she's looking for all that stuff after she finds a guy that has a certain amount of resources. Just like guys. Guys are looking for attractive women, and then they're also looking for women that might share some of their interests and have compatibility factors. But to say that money doesn't play a huge role in modern relationships is just really being a little bit disingenuous. It's kind of like women don't talk about it because it's just something that's such a given. It's kind of like when you go to the pet store to buy a goldfish. It's like, yo, so what do I need for this goldfish? There's, oh, well, you need fish food, and you need one of those little treasure chests that blows out air, and you're going to have to get a thermometer and some algicide. But they don't tell you that you need water because it's freaking obvious that you need water for a fish. That they're not going to tell you, oh, yeah, and you need water too. No, you're getting a fish. You should already know that the fish needs water. And that's how money is in a relationship to women. It's such a given that they don't even talk about it. They talk about all the other stuff that they're looking for. Oh, he's got to have a six-pack, and he's got to like look like this and talk like that and be interested in this and that, because it's just like the water when you're getting a goldfish. It's such a given. It's so obvious that you shouldn't even need to talk about it. And women don't talk about it. And also part of the reason why women don't talk about it is because they don't want to look like gold diggers, because that's the natural position of a woman, is looking for resources. Looking for resources is the natural kind of way that women operate. But in society, that's considered being a gold digger, so they don't want to pretend like they're gold diggers. So they don't talk about that in those type of articles. But I'm telling you, just look up, is money important to women, on Google or wherever, and I'm sure you'll find some interesting results. So with that, I'm going to get out of here. Stay tuned for the next part. Have a good day and go MGTOW.